zoo that's called the Islamic Republic, Marxist-Stalinist leftists and Mujahideen. Vigilantes. Massa Resurgence 2581. Rebirth. June 2, 2023. The meaning of unity, which is one of the most important principles of Pahlavism, is the agreement of everyone around the common points that guarantee freedom, visibility, and giving equal importance to each and every resident and citizen of Iran. The principles that guarantee the establishment of a healthy economy and the enjoyment of even unemployed people having the minimum standards of life in accordance with international standards. For example, if some jobs are lost as a result of artificial intelligence, the government is obliged to either stop artificial intelligence, or provide minimum living facilities for each person who lost their job, including at least 50 square meters of private space for living, plus 20% surplus to the necessary expenses for leisure-related activities. In civilized and industrialized countries, all important decisions are made through voting or which the honorable life of each member of the society depends. The following questions are presented to expose the evil agendas of the leftists who have never been committed to the territorial integrity of Iran, the separatists who no one knows what they are after, and the Mujahideen who need no further introduction when it comes to being evil doers. Also, don't be satisfied with just a yes or no answer to any of these questions, and ask them to explain their opinion in details and demand tangible examples of what they mean. 1. Are you committed to the territorial integrity of Iran? What is your definition of territorial integrity and why is it important? What do you think about the name of Iran? Why? 2. Is one ethnicity or race superior to another ethnicity or race in Iran? What is the existential value of every human being? 3. How do you define individual and social identity? 4. What is the role and limits of authority of the person who is in the position of king or queen in the constitutional parliamentarian system of government with a polycracy structure? 5. Why is the only duty and responsibility of the king or queen in the constitutional parliamentarian system with a polycracy structure only to possess moral virtues? 6. What are moral virtues and why is having moral virtues one of the most difficult things to do? 7. Are you familiar with the oil-dependent economy? Are you familiar with a healthy economy? 8. What is your definition of mafia structures or the phenomenon of 1,000 families? Why does the mafia suppress creativity in society and what are its disadvantages? 9. What do you know about the history of Freemasonry? Do you know that in civilized and industrialized countries, people become members of Freemasonry groups just by filling out a simple form and as a result having a series of moral virtues? 10. Do you know that in America there is a difference of opinion between Freemasonry lodges in California and Masonic lodges in Tennessee about moral virtues? For example, in Tennessee lodges a member is expelled for being gay, but in California lodges he is supported. Finally, in many Masonry lodges, decisions are made through voting. 11. In the discussion of economics, do you know the difference between money production and money theft? Do you know that the new generation of Russian oligarchs and Iranian nobles derive their income from money laundering and they have no other art or skills other than living superficially luxuriously? Their superficial way of life has caused major psychological complexes among the poor generation of the society, and in this way, water is poured into the mill of the leftist policies of the Marxist, Leninist, and Stalinist and the Mujahideen. By creating an inferiority complex in the youth, it facilitates their recruitment by the left-wing sects and creates monsters like Akbar Guderdsi, the leader of the Farkan group, which was a terrorist group who took things into their own hands and created chaos in the society. Chaos being another favorite thing for these leftist anarchists. 12. What do workers' rights or labor laws mean? How do you define economic prosperity? How do you define the poverty line? 13. What do you know about the feudal lord system? What do you know about the White Revolution that was implemented during the time of Mohammad Reza Shah? Has the feudal lord system disappeared in Iran? 14. How do you define your personal worth? Is the value of people dependent on wealth and knowledge? Are you familiar with the difference between the goal and the necessary means in life? For example, science and wealth can be goals and can be tools. How can you explain the difference between a goal and a tool? 15. What do you think about making judgments? What is the difference between prejudgment and judging? Whose philosophy or based on what intellectual structure do you make your judgments? 16. According to Prince Reza Pahlavi's Payman Novine, what are the names of the 5 international structures that protect labor rights, prevent money laundering, and set the ground for safe domestic and foreign investments? What do you think about these international organizations, and do you have any suggestions to improve the performance of these organizations? 17. How do you define happiness? 18. How do you define women's rights? Why? 19. Can you explain why in a society where women's rights are not respected, eventually the rights of all the people of that society are violated and a lot of psychological pressure is imposed on the men of that society, which leads to widespread psychological problems in the society and the collapse of family structures and the spread of all kinds of sexual perversions? 20. Can you explain the difference between freedom and chaos? For example, why getting fully naked on the streets by the leftist women in Europe caused serious damages to the movement of women life freedom. Massa Resurgence 2581? 21. Do you know the difference between secularism and licite? Why any religious symbols that can be used by authority figures such as teachers, doctors, psychologists, university professors can harm free thinking? Are laicism or secularism anti-religion, or on the contrary cause more respect for religions and traditional customs? 22. Is the hijab for women included in the discussion of freedom of clothing, or is the hijab a religious symbol? 23. Are you familiar with the court process that started in 1991 as a result of a student of the University of Guelph in Ontario being topless, which after a few years, led to the legalization of being topless under certain conditions? 24. What is meant by the contractual nature of sexual and gender roles? Are you aware of the issue of lateralization of the brain? We, the media group that calls itself Rebirth, together with our brothers and sisters in the European Union, America and Israel, have been dedicated to the education about the principles of Pahlavism and the constitutional monarchy system of government with a polycratic structure. The use of the adjectives Jakesh or Karmsak, and the use of animals to describe the key officials of the Islamic regime in Iran that has destroyed the lives and property of the Iranian people in the name of the Islam and communism, and has looted the Iran's natural resources and wealth, causing bloodshed and insecurity in Iran and in the Middle East and even in faraway countries like Argentina, has been done so with the sole purpose of presenting a psychological profile of these savages and murderers and present surrealistic picture of this 44-year-old comedy tragedy. The structure of the Islamic Republic is like a zoo similar to George Orwell's Animal Farm, a book that was written based on the events of the French Revolution. In terms of the concept of unity consciousness, and the topics of unity versus plurality, the existential value of an ant is equal to Prophet Solomon. According to this point of view, compared to animals, human beings have a characteristic called wisdom, which has caused humans to be introduced by religions as the noblest of creatures, because they have a quality that animals do not have. These concepts are explained in the 6th part of the series. He who is not the king, is not a fan of the king. Furthermore, the animals used to describe the Islamic regime officials, were done so to commemorate the 12 creative young people of Charlie Hebdo who were assassinated by the Islamic regime in Iran, and also to keep alive the memory of them who had started this project. This project of theirs that was meant to describe the Islamic regime officials through animals remained half-finished after their assassination. Using animals to depict someone's personality profile is also a reminder of the principle of humility and equality. Not only is it not insulting to use an animal as an adjective to describe the way a person thinks or behaves, but also, in some cases we have noted that animals have behaved better than someone like Rouhani, the cleric who pulled the chair from under his son's feet and hanged him. Animals not only defend their children with all their heart, but in recent years it has been seen that animals from different species are helping one another. While the animals have been growing in terms of altruism, psychologists and sociologists need to study what the motivation is for leftists women getting completely naked in the name of protesting, or why a mullah like Khamenei, the narcissistic donkey in the neighborhood, got dragged into such meanness and savagery that they do not hesitate when committing crimes against humanity. It needs to be discovered what goes on in the leftist brain of Putin, the lonely little octopus, who gets happy and when he hears a mother and her 3-day-old baby were burned in fire as a result of an attack by Iranian drones. The judgment is yours. Vigilantes. Massa Resurgence 2581. Rebirth. June 2, 2023.